I'm going to call the meeting to order. I was told about 45 minutes ago that the mayor had clients in her office. I don't know if she's going to be late or not here at all, but nevertheless, it's 5 o'clock and we need to call the meeting to order and proceed. Madam Clerk, do you know for sure? Or
Yes, she is not going to make tonight's meeting due to clients still being in her office for tax day.
okay, she's not going to be in the office. Okay. Well, this is the regular meeting of April 17, 2018 of the City Council. Meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville and the City Council sitting as the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the city as a housing asset successor. This regular meeting, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Gomez?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Negretti? Mayor Garcia? Mr. Negretti absent. He is running about 15 minutes late, and Mayor Garcia is absent.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk. Now would be the first of the two times that we have the public comments. We have no one in the audience. We have no cards. I'm not going to read that statement at the present time. Next item on the agenda would be the closed session, and so I'll refer to the city attorney to brief the council regarding the closed session items.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Cox. We have several items on the agenda, several of which are regularly occurring. Item A is anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2 and pursuant to Government Code 54956.9E3. Facts and circumstances related, therefore, are set forth on the agenda. Items B and C on behalf of the City Council are related to items F, G, H, and I on behalf of the Airport Authority. They are all pending litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1. And again, the case names and case numbers are all fully set forth on the agenda. Same is true of item D. It is related to item J on behalf of the Airport Authority. It is also existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1. And again, the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. Lastly, item E is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8, and the property locations and negotiating parties are all set forth on the agenda. To the extent there is reportable action, we will report it either at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the 6 o'clock regular session.
Are there any questions from the council or the staff of the attorney? If not, we will adjourn to executive session. I'm going to be conducting the meeting. Our mayor is in the middle of the tax season. Later today, when I got the message that she would not be here, she still had clients in the office. And you can understand, the day after Thanksgiving. So, this is the regular meeting of the City Council, April 17, and we have just come out of executive session. I want to ask the clerk to have roll call.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Gomez?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Negretti?
Here.
Mayor Garcia? Mayor Garcia absent.
As we just came from closed session, I'd ask the attorney to provide information from the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Cox. We had several items this evening, several on behalf of the city related to items on behalf of the Airport Authority. Item A, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2 and pursuant to Government Code 54956.9E3. The facts and circumstances related to that are set forth on the agenda. Item B and C on behalf of the City Council were related to items F, G, H, and I on behalf of the Airport Authority. That is all pending litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1. And again, the case names and the case numbers are all fully set forth on the agenda. Item D, on behalf of the City Council, was related to item J on behalf of the Airport Authority. Again, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1. And again, the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. Lastly, item E was real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The property parcel numbers and the negotiating parties are set forth on the agenda. At this time, there is no reportable action with respect to any of those items.
Thank you. We're now going to have the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Reverend Taylor, Reverend? Couldn't be here. Mrs. Taylor, Casey, will be leading us from the High Desert Church. And then after that, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Police Chief, Rick Bessinger. So, Casey, if you would come up to the microphone, please. Thank you.
My name is Casey Taylor. I work at Victor Valley High School. My husband is Zach Taylor. He works at High Desert Church, and it is with deep regret that he could not be here this evening, so he sent me in his place. But from the bottom of our hearts and on behalf of High Desert Church, we want to express our gratitude to each of you for the love and passion you have for this city and for our community. Thank you for caring enough to make a difference. Will you please allow me to pray for you, for this meeting, and also for our city? Heavenly Father, we welcome you into this place. We ask that as we approach this meeting, Lord, that you will first just be with our leaders, be with them and their families. We pray a special blessing over just the time commitment and the commitment that they've made to honor you in this place. Lord, we pray for wisdom, the decisions being made and topics are discussed, that ultimately we know that we're all on the same team here. We are grateful for the opportunity to be a part of helping the city of Victorville, to reach its full potential. And we ask you, Father, to give the community a strong voice in grace and patience, to land on open ears, and to please guide the hearts of the community and its leaders towards peace. I lift up our schools and educators as we prepare for future generations, that our students may be proud to live in the city of Victorville. Lastly, Father, I pray that in our attempt to lead, we might make ourselves less to elevate those that we serve. It is your beautiful name that we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to come down to the microphone. There are two resolutions, no proclamations, that we are going to give. And I will give the background from here, and then I'll come down to present the resolutions. The first one is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I'm going to invite Viviana Esparza to join me down front when I come down front. This is the Victorville City Council proclaiming April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Victorville. And the council and everyone should encourage all citizens to help prevent child abuse and to provide for the physical, emotional, developmental needs of our children. The most important thing we have today and our future leaders tomorrow. And so we're going to thank you. I'll come down and there'll be a proclamation, and also I'm going to ask Will Bonnie Lee, as the ambassador of One Legacy, to also join. Secondly, and this is a proclamation declaring April as DMV Donation Life California Month in the city of Victorville. I'm sure all of you are aware of the lives and the healing, the lives that are saved and the healing that occurred as a result of the donations that occur. And when you go to the DMV office, get your license, get the renewal, please check yes when applying to help save a life and have organs donated for someone who greatly need those. And I'm coming down, and so Viviana Esparza, if you would join me. Mike here. Oh, there we go. We have a proclamation, Child Abuse Prevention Month, and it is a great deal of pride that we award these proclamations to individuals who represent organizations, who give of themselves and their organizations. I'm not going to read all of this, just a couple of highlights. All children have the right to receive care, protection, guidance that a family provides, to be free from harm, to have their physical, emotional, and education needs met. More than 33,000 children in San Bernardino County were referred to San Bernardino County Children and Family Services for suspected child abuse and neglect in 2017. It's with individuals such as you and your organization that help to prevent the child abuse. It requires the attention of each and every one of us. It requires constant vigilance, and it requires a commitment on each and every one of us part. If you see something, to report it. Somebody else can make the determination if the report was by accident or not accurate, but wouldn't that be much better than to have something to happen to an innocent child? So we have that responsibility. I want to grant you this proclamation.
Thank you to the City of Victorville for continuing the support of Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. As Assistant Mayor Jim Cox mentioned, it is a community effort. So we know that child abuse does affect the individual, but it also affects the community as a whole. So it's through opportunities as today that we are able to promote the prevention of child abuse. So thank you all.
Will Bonnie Lee. We have a proclamation. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the little check mark on your license when you agree to be an organ donor. I don't know how many times I have heard of lives being saved, individuals that are very ill have been helped, and it's something that each and every one of us can do, and it's really an unselfish act. And we need to think about it. It's something we can all do. This, again, this is a very long proclamation. I'm not going to read it all, but a couple of highlights. More than 114,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and on average, 20 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas a single individual donation of heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, and small intestines can save up to 8 lives, donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others. So it is with great pleasure that we will present this to you on behalf of the city and encourage all individuals to observe the month of April as DMV Donate Life California Month in the city of Victorville.
Thank you. I would like to invite everyone to the 16th annual Donate Life Run Walk, Saturday, April 28th at Cal State Fullerton. I would like to say that my connection to organ donation is I am a living kidney donor. I donated my left kidney a year and a half ago. It took the midnight plane to Georgia, and I started a kidney chain of 11. I had to lose 90 pounds to be healthy to do so. Thank you.
One more time, I'm sorry. I didn't get the money shot, sorry.
Here we go. Thank you very much. We'll get back to the regular council meeting. And the city clerk, would you present the agenda to the council along with any revisions if there are any?
The City Council of the City of Victorville welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Persons who wish to address the council on specific item or any item that does not appear on the agenda are requested to complete one of the white speaker cards located in the council chambers lobby and give it to the city clerk prior to the meeting. The mayor pro tem will call upon each individual who has submitted a speaker card. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments made during the public hearings, written communications, or public comment sections of the agenda are to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker or less, as deemed necessary by the mayor pro tem. Communications are to be addressed directly to the city council. Individual comments to staff or members of the audience are not permitted. Any person or group who interferes with the conduct of a city council meeting by willfully interrupting and/or disrupting the meeting is subject to removal. A peace officer may be requested to assist with the removal should any person or group fail to comply with an order of removal by the council. Any person or group who resists removal by a peace officer is subject to arrest and prosecution pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.9, Penal Code Section 403. Thank you for your cooperation. All documents to be considered for approval at this meeting are before the council. Following is one revision that has been submitted for tonight's agenda. Item number D15, a supplemental staff report agenda item revision for written communications. Those are all the revisions I have.
Thank you. We do not have any appeal hearings scheduled, but we do have the public hearings. The first public hearing is item B1, a public hearing to hear arguments for and against an amendment to the mitigated negative declaration previously adopted for the Mojave River Walk project. It's set forth in the resolution 18-019. Before I open the public hearing, council members, are there any questions of staff regarding the staff report submitted to you? Hearing no questions, I'm going to, is there any, before I open the public hearing, is there any presentation or are you just available to answer questions?
I'm available for questions.
Questions, all right. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing to hear arguments for and against amendment to the mitigated negative declaration previously adopted for the Mojave Riverwalk project. I have no cards, but if any of you here want to address the council, you can come up to the microphone. Seeing no one scrambling for the microphone, and I have no cards from anyone wanting to speak on the project, I will close the public hearing. Again, are there any questions of staff? No questions. Are there any comments? Wait a minute. We're going to have a motion and a second, and then we'll have the comments. So the chair's open for a motion at this point. On B1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments.
Mr. Cox, just one comment. We, from time to time, get criticized for spending money on things that seem to be unnecessary. Perhaps a river walk, when we could hire police instead, or firemen, or fix streets. Brian, can you explain to us where the funding comes from, why it is restricted for this use, and...
Certainly. The funding for this...
That's fine. Go ahead.
The funding for this project is primarily from an active transportation program grant. That money can only be used for pedestrian and bicycle facilities. However, it is being supplemented by one of our local funding sources, which is the Local Transportation Fund, which can only be used for pedestrian or bicycle facilities or transit. But since we need to match the grant, we need to supplement it with those funds.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? We have a motion and a second. Clerk, would you call, roll call?
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
The second public hearing is the public hearing for B2 in this adopted fiscal year 2018-19 annual action plan approving submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, for application of Community Development Block Grants, CDBG funds, Home Investment Partnership Program, which is a home program, and authorizing city manager to sign. Before I open the program, and I have approximately 6 cards of individuals who want to address the council. Are there any questions from the council to the staff?
I have to recuse myself.
Okay, we have a recusal. Are there any questions from council members to staff?
Yes. Will city staff do more than the 2-year visits to any organization that's being rendered money today? And how often will the city employees or those that have that responsibility be visiting the organizations for accountability?
Good evening, Mayor.
Smith, would you answer that question?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Cox and Council. The HUD minimum requirements for monitoring are every 2 years. If there is an issue raised or a specific reason to conduct monitoring more often than that on a particular applicant, we can absolutely do so.
Another follow-up question to that. Have you had any complaints thus far?
To my knowledge, we have received no complaints about any of the activities that have been funded with CDBG for about the last 10 to 12 years that I've been involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any further questions of staff? If not, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I will. Any individuals that want to address that may come to the microphone and do so. Please fill out a card so we'll know who you are in case we need to follow up. And I take these in order that I have received them. The first individual, Rosie Sandoval, if you will come up to the microphone. And then there comes Ms. Sandoval, and then when she finishes, following her, Brenda Sutherland. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Rosie Sandoval, and I am here representing Victor Valley Domestic Violence A Better Way, located at 14114 Hesperia Road in Victorville. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to thank you for the continuous support that you have been providing us with throughout the years. We continue to have a 26-bed emergency shelter as well as our outreach office where we offer life skills, anger management, parenting classes, as well as peer support groups, victim impact and youth life classes, and many other services which are free to the community, and free child care is provided if needed. Thank you once again.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming up. Brenda Sutherland. And following Ms. Sutherland would be Andrelita Charbonnet. So she can.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Brenda Sutherland. I'm the High Desert Community Outreach Coordinator for CASA, which is an acronym for Court Appointed Special Advocates. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to improve the quality of life for youth that are in foster care. We recruit, screen, and train volunteers to do what I say is the extraordinary, and that's to mentor and be advocates for foster youth. We'd like to thank you, Council, for funding us this year through CDBG. Our organization is changing lives, one youth at a time. Our country is in a crisis as it relates to foster care. The average used language in foster care for 2 years or more, suffer PTSD, twice that of veterans. Less than 56% graduate high school. Less than 4% go to college. Less than 2% graduate college. 23% will become pregnant teens. 65% of foster youth leaving foster care need immediate housing. 31% are homeless by age 24. 50% are unemployed. We currently have on our wait list 222 youth. 53 of them are in the high desert. But I want to share a success story briefly. Last July, my foster youth that I had mentored for over 3 years made an agreement with me that when she graduated high school, that she would send me an invitation to her graduation. She left California and went to Arizona with 8 units to go, and I really wasn't happy about it, but I made sure that she went and was in a good, responsible relationship. as a typical teenager would do, she notified me 2 days before her graduation. But I want to let you know that I got up July 5th, and drove across that Arizona desert where it was 115 degrees in the shade. But I was determined that I was going to witness something phenomenal because she was the first person in her family to graduate high school. And I wanted to see that. And it's all because she had a CASA who believed in her. And that's what a CASA does. So thank you for the funding. We appreciate it.
And thank you for your commitment. Jimmy Waldron, you will follow Andreletta. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm Andrelita Charbonnet, and I am here representing San Bernardino Sexual Assault Services. And good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Cox and council members. We just want to give you a brief thanks for all of the funding that you have provided us over the years and presently, as it does give us the opportunity to counsel children, adults, and seniors who have been victimized by sexual assault. And talking about the children, we're talking about children who have been in regression, bedwetting, failing school, and having anger or other emotional traumas that they are dealing with in their life. We're talking about teenagers, troubled teens that we get to go out and help and counsel at on-site locations at high schools and elementary schools, as well as at our Victorville office. We also get to help adults, children, and seniors that suffer from disabilities, such as autism or other physical disabilities, which your funding has helped us be able to do in our office at Victorville and again at on-site locations such as Rolling Start, working with the high schools and getting in with the teachers and elementary schools. So we want to thank you also for the funding that you have provided us, as April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month as well. And we've been able to go out into the community and provide information on awareness so that we can help prevent sexual violence within our communities with our members. So we thank you for that funding that also gets us into the hospitals and do outreach with victims who have recently been assaulted by a perpetrator. So we thank you for all of the funding that you provide us.
Thank you. Jimmy Waldron, followed by Leslie Earl. Sorry about that.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm Jimmy Waldron, and this is Shelly Raoul, and we're from High Desert Homeless Services, and we would like to thank you for your continued support for the homeless shelter. This upcoming year, we're going to be expanding our services and providing more programs for our people who are in the shelter. We've got a daycare that we provide daycare for, and we also have Pacific University students and Ready for Reading program. We're coming in and going to start doing a homework program for our students so we can help educate them. We're also going to start doing some job training skills at the shelter and start teaching some of our clients how to cook and give them job experience. And with your help, hopefully this year, we're going to be able to upgrade the warming shelter that we collaborated with the Victor Valley Rescue Mission. And thank goodness for Supervisor Levingood, who was able to acquire us some tents. We were able to buy temporary shelter for them this last season in the weather to get them out of the cold. But with your guys' help, we're looking to upgrade that and get some buildings and some bunk beds. So we're looking forward to your funding. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Both of you. Leslie Earl, and then followed by Midge Nicosia.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Cox and the City Council of Victorville. My name is Leslie Earl, and I'm the Program Manager at Victor Valley Family Resource Center. And we would like to thank you for the funding that we received this year. We are expanding our program to not just reach troubled adults that have been incarcerated, but we want to start at the youth level. And so this year we're starting a reading program for youth that are behind in grade level with regards to their reading level. We've done research and understand that most individuals that come in contact with law enforcement, especially in their later years, do have or are behind in reading at a very young age, often the third grade. And so what we're trying to do is reach younger children as a crime prevention even, to try to get them up to speed, because once they become more proficient in reading, they become less likely to be involved with criminal activity. So we've been around since 2009 in the High Desert, serving Victorville, Apple Valley, as well as Hesperia. And what we're trying to do is collaborate with the Victorville Unified School District in identifying individuals, children that are behind in reading, providing a after-school program at the Goodwill Education Center, and we'll be offering classes and as well as one-on-one reading, a reading program with the youth here in the Victorville area. Hopefully 10 to 20 years from now, we can improve graduation rates because of the reading program. We can improve college entrance exams or college entrance acceptance, as well as college readiness here in the Victorville area. And I want to thank you again for the opportunity, and we look forward to the successes. Thank you.
Thank you. Paige Nicosia, and followed by Dolores Williams.
Hey there.
Hello.
My name is Midge. I'm the Executive Director for the Victor Valley Community Services Council. We are the original nonprofit in the High Desert. We were established back in 1956 and started a lot of the agencies that exist today. Today we service seniors and disabled persons. And while I'm a little bit disappointed we did not get funded for our transportation program, which is one of the really big needs up here in the High Desert, I am grateful for the continued funding for our home modification program. With the funds that we get from the City of Victorville for our seniors and disabled persons that live in Victorville, we make modifications to their home to keep them healthy and safe and happy. We do things like heating and air, plumbing, electrical. We install grab bars and wheelchair ramps. And in the future, I want to apologize for not making the first meeting. That day, my mom was being discharged from the hospital, so I could not be here and there at the same time. And I wish I had the opportunity to speak about our transportation program, because we do provide free transportation to a lot of Victorville seniors and disabled persons. So it is a free service that we provide, and if you've seen our blue and white bus driving up and down the street, that's us. Wave to our new driver. She's great. And last thing I want to say is that another opportunity for us and other nonprofits in the High Desert to raise funds is our Great Duck Race. I will just put that on right now. And we have our Great Duck Race. This is going to be I believe it's our 8th or 9th year at Hesperia Days in September. But currently we're looking for our sponsors, and then we'll shortly start selling sponsored tickets for our little rubber duckies, and the winner is $1,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dolores Williams.
Good afternoon to the council, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm representing Millionaire Mind Kids, which is a nonprofit organization I'm the president and founder of. We've been in the High Desert since 2005. We acquired our nonprofit status in 2008. We are located in Victorville, right across the tracks in the old Goodwill School. And our mission has been to provide exposure to underserved students in areas of discipline in college, careers, and STEM and disciplines that they are underrepresented in. We've served over 4,000 students across the High Desert since 2008. We are expanding our program here in the High Desert. We're operating for the last 5 years out of 4 portable classrooms. We've now acquired the whole school, the old Goodwill School, and we have collaborated with other nonprofit organizations to create a community of collaborative services. And so we're just appreciative. This is our first time funding from Victorville. We are very, very appreciative. We're adding a family center. We have a STEM program. One of our newest programs that we received award for last year is our Law and Justice program. One of the things we've been really good at is engaging all the businesses here in the High Desert, educators, government, that pillar of support that support our children. The Law and Justice program consists of all law and justice agencies. They come to our center. They give our kids a 5-day Law and Justice Academy, from taking them out to the High Desert Detention Center to providing a case fact pattern for them to solve, to forensics, teaching them forensic science and fingerprinting, how to solve the crime. And one of the things that program has done is really deterred some of the students from getting into trouble. Blanca, thank you very much. You were part of helping us to clean up. Last year, we cleaned up the center. Everything is volunteer. And the most important thing I want to leave today is our program is run by the youth in our communities. These are our future leaders. These are the students who stand up and provide community outreach. So we're appreciative, very appreciative for the award. Thank you very much. And we are pleased to serve this community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was the last card that I have. Was there someone else wants to speak? I see a hand in the back, ma'am. You have to come to the microphone. We can't hear you. Did I miss a card? Not that I know of. Maybe we can take the microphone to her. Since I don't have a card, would please give your name and an organization if you represent one.
Yes, I am Marilee Reese with High Desert Transitional Living Connection, and I am coming to thank you for another year of support for my organization. One thing I do want to say is that there are many, many more homeless people in our community than there were last year. And part of the reason is when the population from the prison are being released, they're being released in the middle of the night. And thank God for our churches who are picking these people up and directing them in certain areas. However, some of them are falling through the cracks and they're becoming homeless. And so I just want to bring that to your attention, that we're helping them with food and clothing and necessities, essentials. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. If there's no one else from the City Council, all those who just spoke, thank you very much. All of you for the contributions that you make, for the help that you bring to this community, and you don't realize how many, we probably don't realize how many people depend upon each and every one of you. So thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Council members, do you have any questions, or if before I proceed from the staff, do you have any questions? You have comments or questions? Okay, we're going to, no questions. We're going to ask for a motion, and then we'll have comments.
Move approve item B2 and adopt resolution 18-022 and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents for submittal to HUD.
Second? I will second that. We have comments.
I have a few concerns that I would like placed on the record in regard to some recommendations that are before the City Council today. On many occasions, I have personally visited the homeless shelter, not only in the warming shelter, but also the high desert shelter. On occasion, I had some concerned homeless individuals confess to me the unfair treatment that they faced during their times at the shelter. Things that were targeted things from the then we had Target, the superstore, the Target store we had, would be donated clothes to the shelter, where I was told that staff would instead take that clothing home and sell it rather than let the homeless individuals pick out their clothes. Others mentioned to me things like their doctor's prescription medicines were thrown out and not returned to the individuals once they were let go out of the shelter. This gravely does concern me. In my conversations with staff, I mentioned my concerns, and I asked to have more than a 2-year walkthrough in facilities in order to keep the shelter staff more accountable to our homeless residents. As an avid proponent of treating the homeless and those vulnerable to housing as it pertains to this agenda item, I respectfully ask that the city management I'm not gonna not vote on it. I'm just bringing my concerns up, so don't worry, guys. It's okay. You'll see it through my message. I respectfully ask the city management to particularly hold accountable such organizations, nonprofit, because we want to better the lives of our residents. If anyone has complaints or concerns regarding the recommendations of the monies that the city will be issuing on behalf of federal government to any organization that may cause you to turn the other way around, please don't turn a blind eye to it and contact the city's development department and ask for Sophie Smith or call her at 760-955-5033. Please do not distort my message. I too am concerned and would not only want the vulnerable or the poor, I don't want them to be taken advantage of simply because someone else has power or they use the silence justice. If any of you weren't aware, I want to share that the disadvantaged communities is what we are supposed to serve with, is community block grants that they're designed for. Not too long ago, I was at a meeting and I heard about AB 685, which was passed in 2014, which gets to my point that every human being has a right to safe, clean, affordable, and accessible water adequate for human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes. I, too, am a humanitarian, and I ask that the city and the taxpayer hold nonprofits also accountable with these federal tax monies that come from both you and I. I've made my concerns to staff known in regards to CDBG funding on many occasions. If staff hasn't yet received these calls, you should by the next week. My recommendation for this item is for staff to hold accountable these organizations and hold investigations instead of just assuming that is actually benefiting all our vulnerable homeless populations. With the recusal of one member and another member absent, it would be clear that for me not to vote, this item would not pass. That's not my intent. My intent, as I said, is just to hold accountable organizations that perhaps I have witnessed through the homeless population telling me personally that they've suffered these consequences. And I don't appreciate that. And I think our vulnerable, our othered, and our marginalized individuals can't come to City Hall to complain because they don't know. They're worried for their next meal. And for me to attend these places and get it from their mouths, it's aggravating. I think they should have somewhere to go to. And if you haven't realized, I'm there with the homeless individuals, asking them questions, making sure that they know that they have someone in City Hall, whether it's all 5 of us or one of us going out there. I don't disagree with the recommendations. I just wanted to set that forth.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox, I have a comment.
You have a comment? Go ahead, Mr.
Thank
DeGrady.
you. First of all, I'd like to thank all the organizations that submitted applications. It's been an honor and a pleasure to sit on the committee with city staff to review these applications every year. But I would like to make some recommendations going forward because what we want to do is make the best and most effective use of those funds that we possibly can. And so if you're a nonprofit and you're sending in an application, work with the city staff. Make sure that you understand what the expectations are, do it in a timely manner, and ask questions. That's the only way we're going to get better. Each of the organizations that we saw, there is a tough decision you have to make. But when you give this organization more, maybe you don't have enough for something else. But that's what we do. That's why we're here. So I would like to thank the city staff for all the work that they've done with us on this. A lot of great projects out there. And I know a lot of the organizations that the city encounters have a lot of folks that may have been here traditionally for a long time, and they have been very invested in these organizations. And I would just tell those organizations, you know what, develop your bench strength. You know, we all can't keep doing what we're doing forever. If you see leadership in some of the folks that are in your organizations, develop them. It does not happen by itself. You've got a lot of great contacts, relationships, and network that you could pass on to people, that you could develop people, and encourage them to really reach out to other organizations. And the city, again, it's just communication. That way, what will happen is a little success this year breeds more success next year, it breeds more success next year, et cetera, et cetera. But I can tell you one of these organizations that we were able to constantly work into the CDBG program every year, they had something really small. It's kind of big, but it's financially was a small thing. And you know, I'd like to recognize the city staff at that time that jumped in and didn't need any prodding on our side. They just went over right after a morning meeting and started helping fix the problem. But I've always told every organization, if we don't know the situation, it's kind of hard to look for solutions. But when you're out there and you find these obstacles, there's a lot of different ways to approach things. But one of them is, if you have great relationships, that's a great place to start. We are always available. So you can call us at the city as well every time, or invite us. There's a lot of organizations that have events that conflict sometimes, and we can't make everything. But again, please feel like we are on the same team as a community. And this community is not just city leadership or whatever happens to be the case, fire, public safety, and all that, and police. It's the organizations that are applying for these funds every year. That's another extension of community leadership. And so we know that you know that we support you. Every year we get to do this. It's a great thing to do. But don't let it be just a one-time thing. Let's improve on those relationships and keep solving the issues we can, and work on the big ones and do it together. So I would just say communication is better, and working together. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. The comments of Council Members Gomez and Negretti, I hope everyone listened to that. We have talked for some time of having an evaluation of some sort, not to particularly check on individuals, but to find ways to make the system work better. And we can only do that when we hear from those individuals who are volunteering their time to make the programs work, and when we hear from those individuals who are recipients of the program. We need to hear from you of the failures and the successes. We can't take any action based on hearsay or after the fact. And as Ms. Gomez indicated, we have a concern about how effective this is working. And as Mr. Negretti has stated, this is a team effort. We're on the same team. We're on the same side. We need your cooperation and assistance. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia and Mr. Kennedy being absent.
Again, thank all of you for participating in this, and hope that the following year will be even better than the last year. Thank you again. We now have the consent agenda. Items 1 through 7 can all be approved by one motion. If there are any of these items that need to be discussed or there's questions, we can handle them individually or pull them off and handle them separately. What is the request? What does the council desire? They need to be pushed. Are there any questions in the consent to be addressed separately? If not, and there's no questions in regard to the consent item, we have a motion for items 1 through 7.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox, I move the consent calendar.
Second.
Second. Any comments before the approval? No comments. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
We are now, thank you, we're now at the written communications, agenda item number 1. The first item on this agenda item is engineers report, resolution 18016, resolution number 18017. And this is for the engineers report filed in support of annexation of the Canterbury Tract to the Victorville Citywide 2 Landscape Maintenance Assessment District, and resolution 18017, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville declaring its intent to order the annexation of the Canterbury Tract into Citywide Landscape District, Assessment District number 6, and setting a public hearing and ordering the mailing of hearing notices and assessment ballots to the property owners in question. Before we continue, are there any questions of staff from the council members? Questions in regard to how it works, or the technical questions? Is there a need for a staff report at this point in time, or are you just available to answer questions?
Just here to answer questions.
You're available to answer questions. The chair can have a motion and second, then we'll have comments from the council.
Move the approval of resolution 18-016 and 18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Before we vote, do we have comments from any member of the council? No comments? Roll call vote, please.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Item 2, power purchase agreement. This is approval of a power purchase agreement for renewable resources between the City of Victorville as the buyer. Is that Hecate Engineering Palo Alto LLC? Did I pronounce that right? Before we proceed, questions from the council members regarding questions of staff, or any questions regard to the staff report? Question from Mr. Kennedy.
Keith, this in the discussion, it talks about having to get to 33% renewable energy sources in by 2020 and 50% by 2030. What is the likelihood that there will be producers who can help us and anyone else get to that goal?
Yes, Councilmember Kennedy and to the rest of the council, that's actually a good question. And one of the things that we're doing, to answer it directly, it's going to be tough to meet that 33% requirement by 2020. Notwithstanding that, there are provisions that we're relying on that the CEC allows small POUs like ours, where we've had some issues in the past in terms of trying to create renewable energy. We can actually carry losses forward from our energy operations, and we're doing that to actually delay the compliance period. But right now, the way we project is that by 2021, we're going to have some renewable energy in our portfolio. So this item is really a first step in trying to move towards achieving those targeted goals by 2020, 2021. This is the first contract. We're actually talking with another solar developer as well. So while we're moving forward with this transaction tonight, we do expect continued dialogue and eventually bringing back another PPA that would eventually allow us to meet those goals, whether it's the 33% by 2020 or the 50% by 2030.
If it's going to be difficult to reach those goals, what do you think the effect on the price of the product is going to be?
Interestingly, the price for solar power particularly, and that's what this contract is dealing with, has come down, is much more competitive than what it was, say, 2 and 3 years ago. In fact, as I understand it today, the purchase price that we've locked in by piggybacking on the Palo Alto transaction is the cheapest in the marketplace. And when we first started talking about this, talking with this power developer, this was the lowest by far. We started these conversations almost a couple years ago. And now other solar developers have started to come close, but to my knowledge, based upon everything that I've seen, this is still the lowest price. So we see prices coming down as more solar development is coming along. So I'm not so sure that as it takes a little bit longer to negotiate other contracts, it's going to hurt us all that much. Notwithstanding that, it is still more expensive than what we're currently procuring power at. And as you probably know, at SCLA and at Foxborough is where we provide electricity services. We're buying under contract power at about 29, almost $30 a megawatt hour in comparison to what we've locked in here, which is $36.74. So there is a spread between the renewable power and the non-renewable power.
And just one last thing, how will this power purchase agreement affect the average homeowner in the city of Victorville?
This transaction does not affect the homeowners, period. This is just for our energy services provided at SCLA and Foxborough, our industrial customers.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any other comments? If not, can we have a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any comments from the council members? No comments. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Next item is item number 3. This is from the engineer, Mr. Brian Gingler. This is a proposal to the California Transportation Commission for local streets and roads funding. It isn't to approve it, but it's to get the funding, Arrowhead Drive, 7th Avenue. And as I recall, this would run from Yates to Bear Valley Road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And now there's more will come back to the council as this moves forward. If we receive funding and assistance on this, there will be some determinations of exactly what other improvements or widening or signals or other considerations. But at the present time, this is a request to receive funding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Any questions of our city engineer? Any questions in regard to the staff report? Hearing none. Have a motion to approve, to authorize request for transportation funding.
Make a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Resolution 18-0.
Second.
Motion second. Any comments? About how long will before we know when this gets approval or not for funding and how much?
The applications are due May 1st, and I would expect about a month after that we'll know if the funding is available or will be available.
Hopefully he'll be coming back to the council within 2 months to give us the good news.
Sure
Call
thing.
for the vote, please.
Motion by Mr. Negretti. Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, yours also. This is an agreement for the installation of storm drain on property located at the northwest corner of Hesperia Road, Seneca Road. I'm sure all of you who drive that road after every storm see the ditch getting larger and larger, and this is going to be to put a pipe in the ground and to cover it.
Yes.
Will it be developable over the top of that property, or will it just, because right now it's just getting worse?
Yes, not a building, but they could have parking on top of the pipe.
Okay. Is there any questions of the engineer or technical questions or questions regarding the staff report from council members? Hearing no questions, we have a motion for this item, and then we'll have comments. Chair calls for a motion.
Of the item.
Second.
We have motion second. Any comments? No comments? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Ms. Gomez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
We have a amendment 1 to agreement with Albert Webb and Associates for the design of water pipeline replacement, small diameter projects in Old Town. Any questions of the staff regarding the report, or any technical questions while Mr. Gingler is still here?
Yeah, I have a question. I was speaking with a couple of members or residents, and they mentioned that Old Town not too long ago, perhaps long ago, had issues with water pipeline replacement. And I was questioned as to why we're doing this again, or if this is just routine maintenance.
Well, virtually all the water mains in Old Town were old pipes. Many of them were too small, and virtually all of them needed to be replaced. What we did is we planned a phased approach. Instead of doing all the pipes in Old Town at the same time, we broke it into separate projects. And so far, we've completed 2 projects. This would be the 3rd project in Old Town, and our intent is to complete all the pipe replacements in Old Town. It would have been too much disruption to try to do it all in one big project. And so we're hopeful that this will completely revamp the water system in Old Town.
Thank you. No further questions.
Other questions? Questions, Mr. Kennedy? Can we have a motion for approval?
Motion to move the item.
Motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Are there any comments? Roll call vote, please.
Motion by Ms. Gomez, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Item number 6. This is calls for an agreement with Victor Valley Union High School District for improvement of Herbert Street. And I have to admit, I had never heard of Herbert Street until we received this request. Mr. Gingler, could you explain a little bit more the need for Herbert Street?
I can, and probably no one would know of the name of Herbert Street. It was created by a map when the property was subdivided, and today there are no improvements there. It's simply a road right-of-way. It's dirt. It's not even graded. So that's the name that was on the map, and that's the name that we're referencing. And this would simply be an additional access to the preparatory high school that currently gets access on Seneca Road. This is something that our traffic engineer and I have been working on with the high school district, and they have agreed to pay for the improvements to allow this additional access, which we think will relieve the traffic issue on Seneca Road.
Very good. Any other questions of Mr. Gingler?
Usable used street now? Or
no, there's nothing there now. It's not even drivable.
Questions? If not, Chair call for a motion.
Move approval of the item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from council members? Comments? Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Next item on the agenda, also Mr. Gingler, the City Council is request that the City Council reject all bids submitted for the SCLA Phantom West Streetlight Project CC 18-052. Authorize staff to rebid the project. Other than the bids coming in too high, was there any need to reword the specifications, or what happened?
The way this project was originally envisioned was that part of it would be done by in-house forces, but we realized when we looked at the entire scope of the project that it was above the threshold for public bidding. So to be prudent, we decided the best thing to do would be to bid the whole project, every element of the project. And so that's what we're doing now. We're basically rescoping the project to include all the work in one contract that we would rebid.
Any further questions from Mr. Gingler from the council members?
Yes, I do. is this type of rejection bid common, and how often and how much time is being expended to figure out why the bid was not good the first time around? And this is with the assumption that staff has ample experience and has been working in this sector over a decade. Would you please elaborate so I understand?
Well, the bids were valid for what was requested in the bids. The reason that we need to request a council action to reject the bids is that's a requirement of the bidding process. Council has the authority to both award bids and also reject bids. So we really need to go through this procedure to reject these bids before we rescope the project and then re-advertise it.
I understand that council can award or reject, but I just wasn't understanding if this is something typical that we see probably 3 times a year, or there's something that comes into play.
No, it doesn't happen that often. Sometimes we have rejected bids because we felt that the costs were high and we may have rescoped the project. In this case, it's simply that we want to encompass the entire project in a public contract and not separate a certain part of it for using in-house forces.
Thank you. No further questions.
Other questions, council members? If not, can we have a motion to reject bid submittals for the SCLA Phantom West Street Lighting Project?
Move approval of item D7.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? If not, vote please.
Yeah, I
I'm
have
sorry.
a comment
Got ahead of
here.
you. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe this is redundant, perhaps it isn't, but would you please apprise the council of why the necessary bid rejection is required and how the $45,000 amount plays into the rejection? I just looked at the value, and perhaps you already answered it, but I didn't give you the figure, and I don't know if that would make any change.
Well, in the public contract code, there's a $45,000 threshold where you can use your in-house forces to perform public work. However, because we were aware that this exceeded the $45,000 threshold, our intent was to encompass the whole project into one and not perform any work with in-house forces, but include all the work into one contract. So we're going to have to re-advertise it, and then we'll have to come back to City Council to request an award for the entire project.
Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Agenda item number 8, the Macerich Assistance Payment. Number 5, Mall of Victor Valley Development Agreement. Questions of staff?
Yes. Go
ahead.
I have a few questions of staff regarding this item. I would appreciate it if the discussion would stay within the context of the question that I asked for understanding's sake, and not about the 2-page document that's here. I have the items in front of the items that I have in front of me. I've read the agenda, and so please don't reference the materials in the agenda because, like I said, I've already read them. So I am interested in receiving clarification of the 28-year agreement versus the $18.8 million that the city has used as subsidy to the Victor Valley Mall. And how did the 2013 become the standard measure? When were the agreements signed between the Mall of Victor Valley and the City of Victorville? And so if you please take your time in explaining and how a subsidy to the mall in annual amounts equals to the sales tax received by the city that is in excess of the baseline to be retained by the city of $1 million.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, a lot of what I think was just asked is in fact in the staff report, so I apologize. It feels like I'm going to repeat a lot of what's in there, but as basic background, back in 2012, the City Council chose to adopt an ordinance effectively approving a development agreement that established a sales tax sharing arrangement with the owner of the mall, which is a company called Macerich. And Macerich is still the current owner of the mall. And in approving that development agreement and adopting the ordinance, the council at that time recognized that the mall was in a state of decline and needed substantial assistance to redevelop it effectively, to re-tenant the mall and try to reposition it into a mall where it can continue to survive and not go into further decay and effectively become a mall that nobody would go to and shop at and enjoy the shopping experience. So with that, we had participated together in several studies and analyses that looked at the options of either doing nothing and watching the sales tax erode over the years, studying the impact of that, especially as it related to your general fund, and of course what the general fund can be used for. In today's case, as was then, it's largely public safety, police, and fire. So the City Council chose to participate in this type of agreement, effectively to have a sales tax sharing arrangement where it at least preserved an acceptable level of funding. In this case, it's $1 million a year, and the sales tax sharing arrangement is to pass through everything above that $1 million a year until such a time that over the term of the agreement, and the term of the agreement is in the, not recalling it, it's a 28-year contract, but over that period of time, that $18 million figure effectively becomes the cap to which they can recapture over that period of time. If they recapture it, great. They satisfied what they intended to. If they actually fall short, that's the risk they take. Is if they fall short of that over the period of time and don't capture, that's due to their lack of performance, and they can't claim anything more past the 28-year term. So the item before you, this now is the fifth time. This is the fifth assistance payment that we're effectively transmitting to the mall owners, and this amount that is being transmitted is in excess of that $1 million threshold. It is less than what we budgeted. In fact, what's being asked to be sent to the Macerich owners is $331,092. It's less than what we budgeted. We budgeted about $425,000. We budget a little conservative. They did not meet that budgeted number, and in fact, what we did see year over year, 2016 to 2017, we actually saw a 3.4% drop in the sales at the mall. Can't speak to exactly why, but we're seeing a little bit of a softening, at least in the year-over-year analysis. So with that, this is becoming kind of an annual routine item for us to fulfill the obligations under the agreement. We've done the analysis that has been summarized in the staff report for you, and staff is recommending that we go ahead and approve the distribution of funds pursuant to the agreement in the order of $331,092.
You know, I was the only one on this council who participated in that decision, and I remember it well. We were looking at a steady decline in sales tax revenues from the mall. It was going to rapidly, soon, fall below the $1 million threshold. For those of you who recall the mall 8-10 years ago, without Macy's, without the Penny's facility, I won't name all the stores, I don't think I can remember them, but we were having lots and lots of problems at the mall, security issues and whatnot. We're dealing with a developer who needed to make these improvements, and what was critical was our participation. When they first came to us with the idea, they came with a number below the $1 million, and we said, we can't do less than where we are right now. We were in enough financial struggle, we didn't have any room to give away. But I think we have achieved exactly the goal we were after. There's been a steady increase in revenues. They have exceeded that $1 million threshold, I think, every year, haven't they, Keith?
They have.
So I think the decision we made, 2012?
2012.
I think has proven to be the one we hoped it would get the result that we hoped. So I'm pretty pleased with this. I'll make the motion to that payment to Macerich.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further comments?
Yes.
Comments.
For staff, please add the contracts and the studies for full disclosure information to the items that are brought to council. The information found on the 2 pages is insufficient, and a contract of the agreement between the mall and the city is preferred. Please provide a copy of the contract in my mailbox. Thank you.
Okay. Since you're doing that, provide me a copy also. I was not with the city in any capacity during that time, and I don't know that I've ever looked at that agreement, so I'd like a copy also. Thank you. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
The next item is the 42nd Amendment to Law Enforcement Contract Number 94-909-A-42. I don't even want to read the amount. Is that correct, staff? $25,429,523 for sheriff's services beginning July 1 this year?
That is correct, beginning at the July 1st.
Is that an increase or a decrease over last year?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, the item before you involves that Schedule A that includes that number of $25.4 million. That's a increase over the current year budget, an increase of just over 6%. The increase is largely attributed to MOU contracts in place with sheriffs, along with costs associated with pension obligation increases. As far as staffing, there's no real change. If you took this and compared it directly to last year, you'll actually see one addition, and that's the amendment that we made last December in adding a SRO, school resource officer, to Victor Valley High School. This contract contemplates that continuing. I met with, along with Police Chief Bessinger, we met with the superintendent today. They reaffirmed their desire to continue with that SRO, and that actually keep us at a SRO level of 4 in addition to the officers that we have patrolling the streets.
Thank you. I'm sorry I got in front of the rest of the council. Is there questions from the council members in regard to the contract of either Mr. Metzler or the Chief Bessinger?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a quick question. So with this and the projected cost for city fire, I'm just curious, what percentage of the general fund is the public safety cost to us looking like in the next coming year?
We have yet to identify the total amount of the budget next year, but it usually runs in the 65% range collectively for both.
Fire and police is 65 or just police?
Collectively for both fire and police, yes.
Other questions? I have a question to staff, or maybe the attorney or both. We have a contract with the Sheriff's Department. It's not likely for any reason that we would ever not have the contract, but we had a contract with fire, and there was all kinds of statements made that we now owed a lot of money for unfunded liability, and yet a reading of the contract doesn't indicate that at all. But since some members of the Board of Supervisors raised that issue as if we owed them money when we don't, is there any question in regard to unfunded liability regarding the law enforcement contract?
I believe the answer to that question is no. We can certainly go back and revisit the original contract that was entered into many years ago. I do believe that the pricing contained in these Schedule A's and the approval process is similar to what we've done in the fire, where we adopt Schedule A's as a supplement to the actual contract. And it's my understanding that these prices include, on the unitary basis, amounts to cover the respective pension obligations.
Doesn't the contract specifically state that this is for salary and benefits and all other items coming to the law enforcement personnel? That it's all inclusive?
That is correct.
Okay. Questions from council? If there are no further questions, chair's open for motion.
I'll move the 42nd Amendment to the law enforcement contract.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have comments from any member of the council? Any and all?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is a 3-page document. It clearly has it has a paragraph of discussion and then Schedule A along with another contract number sheet. Please, if you would, add the contracts so I can read the contracts. This is insufficient information. And the MOU that you said you prepared, I'd also like to see that as a part of it. And thank you for supplying a couple of hours ago in my inbox the schedule for last year so I can compare the comparison. Just a 6.12% doesn't say much, but there's a high increase. But how is that increase occurring? I think the contract and the schedule would allow me to understand better this agenda item. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Call for the motion.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Item number 10, subject matters submitted by Mr. Harris, Deputy City Manager, Victorville Fire Department, special compensation, deferred compensation pay, bilingual pay, hazardous material specialist pay. I don't know what USAR specialist pay is, but you can explain it. Paramedic pay, uniform allowance pay, California State Fire Marshal Company Officer certification pay. Mr. Harris, would you give a report on this, please?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Cox and Council. Before you deny it on this particular item, D number 10 is the request of the Council to approve by resolution of the variety that you've listed of incentive pays and special assignment pays that would be usually inherent in a memorandum of understanding should we have one with a particular bargaining unit. In this particular case, approval of these incentive pays, similar to how all the other benefits and specialty, well, actually the benefits of the balance of the employees by resolution is warranted in advance of our future fire department actually petitioning the council to form a bargaining unit which to negotiate these items. So having council approve these in advance of the hire of those fire folks is warranted to be consistent with our current practices. To answer the question of the types of pays listed, all of which are consistent with that you would see in a fire service department. 457 employee contribution as a result of the difference in the legacy retirement plan that the city offers versus what is offered generally in the fire service. This is a consideration that we're offering to enhance the recruitment efforts of the fire staff. Uniform allowance is pretty customary for fire staffing. In section 2 of that same table, all of these incentives are being offered to prospective applicants simply to expand the services of the fire department, so that we can have qualified folks on staff to handle USAR services, which stands for Urban Search and Rescue. So we would have our own Urban Search and Rescue team. Hazardous material specialist, that's an incentive that would be offered to a few that would actually secure that certification so we can have our own hazmat team. And the paramedic certification for fire engineers and fire captains is one, so that we would encourage those firefighter paramedics who then promote into the ranks of engineer and fire captain to maintain their paramedic certification, so that with the intent that all the staff on each apparatus would continue to remain certified paramedics. And then additionally, bilingual pay is added as well. For firefighter, paramedic, there's an incentive to listed there as the California State Fire Marshal Company Officer Certification, which is something that is typically not attained at that level of firefighter paramedic. So we are encouraging through an incentive for those lower levels to achieve those certifications early in their career, or be in anticipation of actual promotion to a higher rank. With that, I'm available to answer any further questions.
Council, questions of staff?
George, do these incentives fit into the budget and the financial plan that we have developed, or is this something new and different and add-on?
No, all of these incentives were included in the pricing that was presented to you in January when the complete analysis was performed.
Part of the payroll costs that we had originally intended and
That is correct.
expected to pay.
That is correct.
George, for point of clarification, you indicated approval by resolution. There is not a resolution on the agenda item. I assume approval by minute order is adequate?
That is adequate.
The minute order? Okay, thank you for the clarification.
I apologize.
Other questions of staff? Council members? There is no resolution. That'd be a motion. It'd be a motion for a minute order, and chair's open for a motion. Then we'll have comments from council if there are any.
I'll move the staff recommendation for the special and compensation.
I will second that motion because otherwise it's going to die for lack of a second. Comments from council members? There are no comments. Call for the motion.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
3 yes, 1 abstention.
Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent and Mr. Negretti abstaining.
Next item is from Mr. Eric Ray, Airport Director. This is a standard sublease agreement for a portion of Building 724 by and between the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, SCLAA, and Air Methods Corporation. Quite extensive report. Council, are there questions of staff in regard to this item or their staff report? Any questions of Mr. Ray? He's anxious to answer those questions. There's no questions. Chair's open for motion. After the motion, there'll be discussion. Comments? Motion?
I'll move approval of the lease agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments? No comments? Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Thank you, Mr. Ray, for being ready. Don't go away. We have another one.
Okay.
Item number 12, also submitted by Airport Director Mr. Eric Ray, ratification of emergency purchase of new replacement emergency backup generator for SCLA Building 700, Air Traffic Control Tower, project number CCH18-039. Any questions of staff? Questions regarding the staff report?
This is for D12, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we had this one not too long ago this year on the agenda, and we discussed something about a generator. So I don't know if we didn't buy the backup when we approved something of a backup, or if this is something different where the backup of the backup went away, and so now we're doing this all over again.
I'm not aware of one as it relates to the air traffic control tower, which is what this item is particularly for. I do recall backup generators needed for the wastewater treatment facility, which has probably happened within the last 6 months, so perhaps that's it.
No further questions.
No further questions? We have chairs open for motion.
Move approval of D12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
And Mr. Ray again. Mission Aviation Fire Rescue Proposal. Contract award for aircraft rescue and firefighting services project number BM 818-061. Any questions of Mr. Ray or questions regarding the staff report? Questions? No questions? Chair's over a motion.
Move approval of the contract with.
Second.
Motion second. Comments? Comment? Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Ms. Gomez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent and Mr. Negretti abstaining.
Next item is thank you, Mr. Ray.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could, just for a moment, bring to attention the gentlemen that are here. Mr. Gold, if I could, you come up here, and Mr.
Don't forget their names now.
Yeah, don't forget them now, yeah. And Rick is coming up here. I just want to point out that we're very fortunate to have found this Southern California Corona firm, that they're not only going to just provide our services, but they're going to be a company that we're going to look for in the future for if we have emergency equipment or anything else, that any other failures that we may have out there. They bring a wealth of experience, including a fire pump mechanic. So given all of the options that we have, we're very pleased to have them on board.
Very good. You have any comments you want to make, gentlemen? Since you're here.
Rick Hartzog, Chief Operating Officer. Thank you. And it's an honor to serve such a fine city and such a fine airport. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Gold, the CEO of Mission, and thank you for this opportunity, and we'll do a good job for you.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you much. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Next item is submitted by the city clerk, Charlene Robinson, proposed new employment agreement for the city manager. At the last meeting, no, I won't go into that. Either the attorney or the city clerk can cover what happened in the last meeting, which is why this is before us.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, there was a closed session previously to discuss the possibility of doing a permanent contract for Mr. Metzler. I was given direction to draft such a contract. The only thing that was up in the air still was the compensation amount, which cannot be discussed in closed session. Accordingly, in that closed session, a ad hoc committee of Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Cox was formed, and they, in the subsequent period of time, negotiated what they believe to be a fair compensation amount, which is set forth in the agenda, that amount being $240,000, which is a very slight increase over what Mr. Metzler was getting as an interim city manager. I think all of the rest of the details are pretty straightforward and set forth in the staff report. Be glad to answer any further questions.
Questions from the council?
Yes, I have several questions.
Okay.
So my first question is, which budget are you being paid from? I see a lot of them here: city manager, water administration, wastewater treatment facility, reclaimed water, Foxborough Electricity, SCLA Electricity, BMS Electricity, public purpose, sewer, airport operations, and then it says full-time wages. So I'm assuming that's where they're coming from. Okay, and what was your interim contract before, or still now until this gets approved?
My interim contract, which was approved in December, was to the order of $225,000.
And did the city have refunds reserved for a sufficient budget to cover the increased salaries for the remainder of the current fiscal year?
Yes.
And what discussions did the ad hoc committee have with Mr. Metzler related to this item?
I believe the primary discussion, I wasn't a part of it, but the ad hoc committee, you met with Mr. Metzler, and I think the primary discussion you had was as to a salary range that you thought was appropriate.
That was the primary reason, portion of the discussion.
And term. And term, I believe. You discussed term.
Yeah, and term.
Okay. Will this include for costs associated with attendance to a Rotary and a VVC Foundation event, or events, I mean? In other words, are they similar to Doug Robertson's?
They are similar. I'll answer that. One of the things that the council wanted to make sure that the city manager was involved with civic items, civic memberships, but he must come back to the council for approval. He does not have the authority to go out and join the ones that he would want to join. Unless the city agrees with it, he has to bring it back. The city council must approve it because there is an item associated with that. And if the city council is going to send him as our representative, we believe we have the right to say which ones he becomes a member and which one he does not. That was very agreeable to him.
And to answer your question, the contract is modeled very closely to Mr. Robinson's. The only, I think, significant difference is that the compensation level is actually less than Mr. Robinson was getting.
Compensation, Mr. Robinson was substantially higher than this.
One of the other things we talked about at some length was our concern that the city manager, the leader of the entity, shouldn't have special perks and benefits and compensation deals that are different from the rest of the employees. Mr. Metzler agreed with that completely. There are other cities that have deferred comp, special deals with their city managers, and a lot of it is not easily visible when you look at their compensation packages. But we made it clear, and Mr. Metzler agreed completely. He wasn't interested in any of those, so we just settled on the basic contract and the benefits that are the same for everybody else who works for the city.
Okay, so for clarification then, if he has already been attending certain things, he would have brought him probably to city council for approval, or from now on, if he would like to participate in any kind of civic engagement, that's going to be first brought to city council for approval, and then from there on, it's part of the contract, because the contract is vague enough where he can participate wherever he'd really like, which is what I remember seeing Doug participating in, like a Rotary Club, which is very expensive. But I mean, I want to understand if we're going to wait for him to provide a list, then approve it, or is as it comes, or is it based on what Doug was doing in the past?
I can read the intent. If it's not that way, this was the intent. Membership in such civic clubs or organization at city's expense shall require approval of the city council.
All right, then that's good enough. Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? If not, chair is open for motion.
Move approval of D14.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments?
Yes. I would be in favor of hiring a consultant to perform the due diligence to hire the right candidate, or to make sure that we have the right candidate.
I'm going to make one comment. I think Mr. Metzler has proven over 22 years his commitment to the city of Victorville. He's been through thick and thin with the city. And I think in the last 4 months, he has demonstrated the ability to make smart decisions that needed to be made, smart ideas, and the leadership that we need in this city. So I think this is a great idea.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a comment as well. I'd also like to concur with Councilmember Kennedy's comments, and also say that unfortunately, sometimes you have changes in leadership, and things happen. But what I mentioned earlier about some of the other organizations that we deal with when it comes to funding and all the difficult tasks that they have out there, and many of the great causes that they're into, it's hard to do it all by yourself. And so I think the city is fortunate to have someone like Keith, who, like Councilmember Kennedy said, has been there through thick and thin. And I feel like maybe the public a lot of times doesn't know all of the inner workings and the ups and downs and the struggles we go through just to run a city effectively. But I've seen Keith jump right in and have no questions about his leadership style. And matter of fact, I appreciate working with him. And I believe there's a real sense of optimism, and a lot of the issues we've been working that have plagued the city for a long time. You know what? That's just part of being in a municipality, whether it's a county, city, or whatever. So, yeah, I am proud to move this item for approval.
We have no more comments?
I have another one.
Another comment, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mesler has been here for 20 years, and we have seen how part of his leadership has led to the SEC litigation and the ComAv litigation, which a lot of residents in the city of Victorville have approached me for that very reason, saying that we need to do due diligence. Thank you.
I wasn't going to comment, but I think I have to. When the city or any city retains a city manager and hires an outside consultant, there are consultants very well qualified that goes through a recruitment. They put the ads, the city council sets the standard of what they're looking for as far as experience, education, and that individual then weed out those individuals that are not as qualified. They pick the top individuals that generally the city council, that meets the condition of the council, and then that individual comes back for approval by the council. Approved by the council. In my 35 years experience as a city manager, I have never heard of a consultant choosing the manager. And while we did not go on a nationwide hunt, it's still a decision by the council. The individual works directly for the city council, and any manager that works for the council is going to have a stipulation that if they don't do the work required by the council, that contract is in jeopardy unless they carry out the mandates of the council, because there's always severance for cause, always. So on that basis, call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I have another comment. The other comment was, it's interesting how you said stipulations in working for the city council and mandates of the council. Just yesterday, I was asking to get all related city business, regardless of council or mayoral position, and it was denied. So I had to get an opinion from our city attorney, which I am awaiting. So some of those things that you have brought up, I'm sure I've not had any discussions with any council members, just with administration, who I've included, and I've included the city manager, and I'm waiting for that legal opinion, because as it sits, I'm being singled out, not allowed to receive what all of you guys receive, including what the mayor receives. And as a representative of the people, I too should be privy as a legislative body, not to be denied these things. And I have emailed city attorney in this regard with my previous discussion with the city manager when I met with him on Monday. So thank you for bringing that up. Now that I know that piece of information, I'll hold on to it, and I just want to make sure so that the council is aware.
I'm not going to argue. If there's any bit of information that I've received that you haven't, please let me know, and I'll give you a copy, because as far as I know, we get the identical information. Item 15.
I'm sorry, still got to do the vote.
What?
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent and Ms. Gomez voting no.
Item 15. This proposed legal service agreement for the city attorney, and this here is an addendum in front of me, which is a revision, and that the council take no action on the proposed legal service agreement, continue consideration of the legal service agreement to the next council meeting, and proceed with having the mayor designate and council approve an ad hoc committee consisting of 2 members of the city council to review and negotiate the terms of the city attorney. And I would like to, I agree with that, but I'd like to add something. Since the city attorney represents the city, I would like to have it understood that during this negotiation, whatever you want to call it, that all council members have access directly to the city attorney to ask questions.
We need a motion to get this on the next agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to see, I think it'd be helpful to have a motion one, to continue it, and you can include in the motion an ad hoc committee and actually the designation of the individuals to be on that ad hoc committee, so the council votes on those, basically 3 items.
Yeah, I will make that motion to continue the contract with the city attorney to the next meeting. I'd like to form an ad hoc committee. Yes, Mr. Cox and me.
I would like to have the understanding, however, that so everyone will be informed and there's transparency that all council members have direct access to the city attorney during this process so that they can ask any questions that they might want to ask.
As a point of order, we're making a motion, and we're already designing who's going to be in the committee. Unfortunately, this doesn't allow the public to give opinion of who should and who shouldn't, regardless of our majority vote. When something is agendized, we need to give the opportunity to the public to be able to know who those 2 people will be. And I see that that vote is happening right now, and that has that portion of it, not the one where we're continuing with the city attorney, the portion of the selection, that's the part where we make sure that the community, if they have a naysay or they're for it, they're facilitated by seeing this in the agenda.
I think to address that issue, since this was on the agenda in any case, as a revision tonight, that the mayor could ask for any public comment on the ad hoc committee designation.
Okay, well, that's something new for me. So would you remind me why we're even continuing this?
We're continuing it because there was some confusion at the last meeting as to whether or not at that point the designation of an ad hoc committee was appropriate. So that's why it would be appropriate for the council at this time to consider the designation of an ad hoc committee, establish the ad hoc committee, and designate those individuals to be there.
Okay, that makes sense. What didn't make sense was Councilmember Kennedy asking for himself and Cox to be a part of that committee when they're already a part of that committee based on this particular agenda item. So that's what's getting me confused.
This is going to be considered a new ad hoc committee made up of Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Cox, is my understanding. And
Second.
Mayor, you could ask for public comment to give the public an opportunity to comment on that if they wanted to.
Public certainly comment. Come on up to the microphone.
Evening, Council. I have full confidence in Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Cox to be on the ad hoc committee. They've served our community with dignity and honor for many years.
Did you give your name just for the record, please? Thank you very much, because we didn't have a card. I'm not going to open this up for debate because the public doesn't choose the city attorney, but we've raised this issue. You come on up to the council, to the microphone. Please give your name, make your comments, please.
Hi, good evening, Council. Maggie Martin, City of Victorville, live in the City of Victorville. Basically, I just want to concur with the previous gentleman. I have no problems with Council members Kennedy or Cox doing an ad hoc committee on this item.
Yeah, I don't see anyone else wanting to approach the...
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
just a comment. Some cities have in their charter, they have a city structure where the city attorney is elected. Some cities have a city clerk that's elected. That's true of San Bernardino. It's true of L.A. It's true of, I think, San Francisco, probably San Diego. Most of the older cities have that embedded in their charter. I think cities that have formed more recently have decided that that ends up creating a 2 or 3-headed monster. And San Bernardino is a wonderful example of that over the last 25 years. I think the way we do it in Victorville is the right way to do it. The council appoints the city attorney. He's as good as his last game. His experience is important. His institutional knowledge is important. but his value is based on how well he performs this week and last week. And that is really how we have to measure.
Do we have any further comments from the council? Do we have a motion and a second on this? We do have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments from council members?
Yes. Just for my personal clarification, if you, for the city attorney, if you can just provide me how you were able to put something on the agenda, open it right on the floor without having a 24-hour meeting. I'm just a little confused with the specifics. Just if you can provide me with that information, I don't have a problem. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm sorry, would you please repeat the motion?
That the item on the agenda tonight be continued to the next meeting, the contract with the city attorney, and that we form a ad hoc committee to review the city attorney's contract, and that ad hoc committee will be made up of Mr. Cox and me. Kennedy is my name.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Item E, public comments on item of interest to the public. If you want to address the council, please fill out a card. Whatever you're going to speak on is not known, and therefore we don't engage in a dialogue or debate, because had the public known of the subject that you were going to bring up, it could have been agendized, and then people could have come down to offer their suggestions or ask questions. So we do take this seriously. If some people get frustrated because they ask a question or they wait for an answer and they don't get it, but we do have your name and a phone number, and we will follow up, and if necessary, put it on the agenda. But in any case, we consider your questions and comments seriously, and in most instances, staff or someone will, in fact, follow up. Okay? I only have 2 cards, and Mr. Miller Marks, I think that's a familiar name. I think you've been here before. Come on up, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Mr. Mayor. God bless you, Council. I came here, I think, over several times, and we're having a lot of problems on Mariposa Road. I live on Mariposa and Tamarack, right on the corner, and council members were having a couple of accidents. They had a couple of accidents recently, back in April 6th, this now, and March 13th. And there was pretty serious accidents. It's near our home where we live at. And it's out of control. The speeding is really out of control. A lot of speeders are coming real fast. They're making it like a drag race or something. And we need some protection for our home. I just don't want something to wind up in my bedroom, a vehicle, or it could hurt us or kill us. I have to give this to you guys' attention because this is getting out of hand. I know our officers are doing a good job. Captain Schuler did help me a lot. He put officers in sight. But we need a stop sign on Yates and Mariposa, or maybe a wall on where I live at, because we need some protection, because people are just driving so mad and just taking the speed. They're breaking the law, and we just have to reduce that speed limit. I got proof of accidents. There's all police reports, and we just have to take it more serious, please. So please give that to your attention. And I really do praying about it, because, it's just getting really bad out of hand. And I thank you for listening, and please really take matters. I mean, we do need help right away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Mr. Kennedy. Okay? Okay, sir. Thank you. God bless.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, just to let you know, myself, the city engineer, and the police chief are scheduled to meet with Mr. Marks tomorrow at 2 o'clock, so we'll report back.
Okay, very good. Angela Marks? It's covered? Okay, all right. Thank you. And I'm glad you're meeting with that's all the cards that I have. Does anyone else want to approach? Seeing none, we will move to the next item, reports from the city manager.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, first, thank you tonight for your vote of support. I've worked with this city tirelessly for 22 years. Been proud to be a member of your team, and I certainly want to thank you for all the support that you've offered me over my career, and I'll look forward to working with you over the years to come. We'll make it fun. One thing I would like to do, I've got a couple of items, a couple of events scheduled in the near term. On Saturday, April 21st, here at City Hall from 8 a.m. to noon. There's a dog license and low-cost vaccination clinic, along with an adoption event that'll be conducted here. For information, you can contact our animal control at 955-5089. There's also a free backyard composting workshop on that same date, 10 to 11, at Mark and Nellie's Nursery on Bear Valley Road. Our Environmental Programs Division is the contact there, 760-955-8615. And then one last thing, I just want to give particular recognition to all of those. We had all hands on deck in what's being called the Tumbleweed Takeover at the southwest part of town. Yesterday, we just got overwhelmed. The southwest part of our community, the residential tract down there, just got overwhelmed with tumbleweeds. It's pretty amazing what accumulates over the year. And we've had everyone from Public Works to Code Enforcement, Park and Rec, County Fire actually sent over a hand crew. Got to thank them all for the endless amount of work that they put in yesterday, again today, and probably for the rest of the week. Burtech was also very instrumental in bringing on moment's notice haul-offs, or roll-offs, I should say, so that we can actually trash all those weeds and then dispose of them properly. It's something that we're taking very seriously, even though it's affecting private property. We believe it's just absolutely appropriate that we do everything we can to help those residents be able to access and get out of their homes.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
Discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming City Council agenda. I'm going to make a request. It probably should be at the end, but I just recently attended a League of California Cities and didn't realize there's a fight going on in the state regarding the gas tax that was approved. And there is an effort by some groups to circulate a petition to stop or reverse that. And at the league meeting that I was at, there was a really hard push for cities to get involved to protect the money that's coming to the cities to maintain the streets. Now, I'm going to wait until I get the minutes and then put it on the council agenda, if that's okay. So that's why these come up regarding the two items, because we belong to the league. That's our voice in Sacramento. They were really making a push to get involved to protect the road money, and yet they didn't sell that to anybody in the room, or hardly anyone. A lot of cities were there, and they rejected the league's effort. We have no idea where this is going. And I think while the council is being requested to be pro and con, it's going to be a tough situation, but it's not something we should avoid. I think we should be involved in that. Another item for council agenda.
Are you putting a motion to put that on a future
No,
agenda?
I'm just, because I don't have the minutes yet, and I'm not sure, things are changing. I don't think they have qualified the ballot measure yet. I don't want to put it on the agenda and then put it off, because a lot of stuff is happening, but I want to have a possible item for the council, but I want to give you a heads up. Once I put the information together, then I'll make the formal request. I'd say it's kind of a report from the council member because I went to the meeting, but it's also a future item. The other item that I do want placed on the council agenda, it's a request, is the transition from county fire to city fire. I guess being naive, thought we would work out a transition with cooperation of the county, and that's absolutely not happening, and I think we need to go public and say, why not? Because not. So.
Motion?
Motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Can you clarify what you asked? You just said request.
Well, it's a discussion.
Yeah. Well, he also had a discussion about what he wanted to put on the agenda, but I didn't see you complain. All I'm asking is for clarification when he says request from county fire to city fire. I thought we already had that.
It's a progression. We're talking about a progression from the county fire to the city fire. We're supposed to be meeting to work out an agreement for that normal progression. And it needs to be discussed publicly because there is no meaningful discussions occurring. I want our supervisor that represents us involved, not some supervisor that doesn't represent us holding us hostage. I'm really offended by the whole thing.
So the motion is to have a discussion at the next meeting as to what the status is of the transition from county fire to city fire. Is that correct, Mr. Cox?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Still on item E3, discussion of possible action regarding items for upcoming. Sorry for getting out in front of the council. Council members.
I have a couple of things. I live about 4 blocks from your house, over off of Burning Tree. My wife and I were coming home from dinner, and we meet there because I'm coming up the hill, and we got onto the freeway at Nisqually, leaving the restaurant. We exit at Palmdale Road, make that right curve onto Mariposa down to Kingswood, the very first street, maybe 100 yards, and make a left. Now, I know that traffic coming at me is moving, so I'm careful with that left turn. It's 8 o'clock. It's dark. It's not dusk. It's pitch dark. I make the left turn, and just as I get onto Kingswood, I could feel the air from the car that missed my rear end by inches. It actually shoved my car. My wife was making a left turn, and she saw this car, no lights, 70 miles an hour. Couldn't have been a mile an hour less than that. She had the good sense to stop. I got lucky, and he missed me. He swerved around me first and then her. We've got to do something, Chief, about Mariposa Road. It's terrible. It's a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, and people ignore that completely. It's dangerous for anybody walking on that road, any other drivers. I don't know any other, maybe Mojave Drive farther out is almost as bad, but this is a narrow 2 lanes. It's just, I appreciate your coming, and finally I felt like I had to respond to that. So I would like a discussion about Mariposa Road on our next agenda. I'm going to ask the chief to lead the charge on that. Thank you. The other thing is,
Can you have a vote on that?
You want to?
motion?
Yeah. And that question before you vote. You have an item on the streets. That's not the only complaint we've had regarding speeding. Do you want it just for Mariposa Road, or do you want traffic control with a discussion with the police chief?
I don't mind traffic, a larger discussion, but we need to give Mariposa Road some serious attention.
Okay.
We just have People are
All right,
outrageous.
that's fine. I just wanted
So
clarification.
the motion then is to have a discussion about speed limits on Mariposa Road.
Second. Any comments from council members? Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
The other thing is I'd like us to agendize an item to consider and possible action to increase the city manager's procurement authority. Years ago, actually when Mr. Cox was city manager and the city was in terrible financial straits, he got the council, I think it was your recommendation, to get the council to set that procurement authority at $25,000. No other city manager in the area has $25,000. I think 50 is probably a much more appropriate authority. Shouldn't have the discussion. I just would like to have that agendized for the next meeting. Near meeting. Make it more practical.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments from council members?
Yes, several of them. We are not just agendizing items. We also are potentially convincing our colleagues of what we want to occur. And I'm sorry, but that to me smells like a Brown Act violation. And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but if we continue to follow Brown Acts, we're not going to be violating any of them. So when we have a discussion and we want to add something, we shouldn't be trying to convince others what we would like to see. These discussions, after they're agendized, public can come and speak about them. But as we're doing right now, you're convincing and influencing us. And this has happened again and again, and I hope it stops. I don't want to be the only one that always catches the attention. That's not my job, but my job is to have a representative here, and our city is here, our representatives. I'm not just a representative. All of us are, and we're not role modeling these things. And I'm not sure why the city attorney isn't catching that, but I feel that I have to say some things like this, and it really puts the pressure on me. I'm not trying to be the bad guy here.
I think to the extent that Mr. Kennedy was trying to build a consensus, then it could be violative. I don't believe his putting this item on the agenda at this point is trying to build a consensus. He has no idea how the other council members feel about this issue.
Well, when he says from 25 to 50, he is recommending and he is influencing.
Well, maybe that's his recommendation, to put that item
That's
and that
not what it
limitation on the
was.
council.
Okay, well, anyways, I'm not going to argue with anybody. Let's just be cautious of what we're doing, because if it, to my ear, that's what it sounds like. But again, I'm not trying to point the fingers. It just gets really frustrating at times. And I don't know yet, unless I find rules and regulations and start spelling them out and say, you're doing this violation, writing letters of cure and procurement, cease and desist. I've been doing those kinds of things. I don't want to be doing that anymore. I want to get along with everybody, but I need everybody to follow the rules. Or at least let me know as well.
It would be violative of the Brown Act if there was an attempt to build consensus and or have a discussion at this time without being on the agenda. I don't believe that Mr. Kennedy's motion to consider a discussion of the procurement within some potential limits is any way influencing the other council members.
Okay, well, if you would provide, please, a legal opinion on that.
Sure.
And thank you, I would appreciate that.
We have a motion and a second. We've had the comments. Call for the vote.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
And my last item is I'd like to have a discussion about eliminating council member travel budgets. I think our travel ought to be approved by the council, and I just don't think the budget for that item is appropriate anymore.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion. Consideration of eliminating council member travel budgets.
Second.
Comments from the council? If there's no comments, call for the question.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Mayor Garcia being absent.
Do we have any other discussion, possible action regarding items for the upcoming city council agenda? We will go on to E4, reports from council members. Mr. Negretti, reports. Mr. Kennedy? Ms. Gomez?
I attended not too long ago the Wells Water Conference, getting a better understanding of the importance of water and the California water fix. I, along with many other electeds, met in Sacramento and toured the San Joaquin Delta and learned about the concerns that affect subsidence that is found in many islands and the seismic movement. Yesterday, I also attended a meeting in the discussions in relations to the watersheds, which included the Chino Basin and the Santa Ana watershed, with other districts that included the Mojave Water Agency and the San Bernardino Water District, along with others. This is where I became more informed of that Assembly Bill 685, which was passed in 2014, which is worth mentioning, that every human being has the right to safe, clean, affordable, and accessible water adequate for human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes. And this was related to the disadvantaged communities. I also attended the League of California, League of California meeting. I am a policy committee member for the governance, transparency, and labor relations. And there was many cities there. We were discussing a lot of initiatives that will be showing up in November's election. Tomorrow, I will be at another electeds in Sacramento, with other electeds in Sacramento, along with the League of California Cities, which is called Legislative Day. Everywhere I go, believe me, I'm there to serve you. I'm there learning. And regardless of budget cuts or not, I'm still able to attend because this is my full-time job, so I do not feel threatened whatsoever. And I'll be translating the next part. No quiero dejarte atrás, María. Muchas gracias por ser tan paciente y mostrarnos tu apoyo. Algún día tendremos servicios de traducción para no dejarte atrás en las conversiones que tenemos como residente que eres y te mostraremos el respeto que mereces. Muchas gracias por tu paciencia. Hi, Maria. I would like you to not feel left behind. Thank you for being patient and bringing yourself as a supporter of these meetings. One day we will have translation services as to not leave you behind because I value you being here as a Victorville resident, and you too deserve that respect. Thank you for being patient.
That reminded me of a meeting I did attend last week that I think might be interesting for everybody. I'm the Victorville representative on the VVWRA board, Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority. That's our regional sewer system, okay? We're doing a budget and finance. I'm on the budget finance committee. We're looking at the budget and operations. And in the course of the discussion about all of our capital improvement projects, the issue of low-flow toilets just came up. I don't know who brought it up, but and the general manager just held his head, as he often does. He says low-flow toilets and low-flow shower heads and buckets in the shower are the bane of my existence. He said they're great for saving water, but they're taking a toll on our sewer systems. Sewer lines that are laid out in this city, and probably every city in the United States, are built at a certain level of fall based on the hydrological element of the flow and the organic element. So you have the two parts. Well, if you reduce that hydrological piece enough, everybody follow what I'm talking about, the liquid? You reduce that enough, and the sewers begin to jam and collect, and it really creates a problem. So I guess that's a way of saying, you know, maybe put one low-flow toilet in your house and one low-flow shower head and leave the others in place. We need it to get stuff down to the sewer plant.
That concludes the comments of the council. That concludes the council meeting. Thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and watching our progress in action. Thank you for coming and participating. Have a good evening. This meeting is adjourned.